fact that we had no idea that this existed until yesterday makes it that much more special. This is so close to where we live, and there are actual shipwrecks. What's up guys? Wow, it has been a hot minute since we picked up the camera. We've actually been home in Sydney for quite some time now, over a month, and we haven't vlogged once. And I think it's probably because whenever we're home in Australia, we just feel like it's not super exciting, like it's hard to get psyched about your own city. However, with that being said, there is actually so much fun stuff to do in Sydney. Like, we are so lucky to live in such an amazing city. And whilst we're home, we thought we would just get out and do things in our city that we've never really done. So basically today, we're gonna play tourist and go to somewhere that neither of us have actually ever been before. Are you excited?
I'm pretty excited. We're going to Sydney Olympic Park today, which is going to be awesome. We were told yesterday that over at Sydney Olympic Park in one of the bays is actually a bunch of old abandoned ships, like shipwrecks in the bay. So today's sort of main mission is to go and find some shipwrecks. It's gonna be great.
Isn't it fun when you live somewhere and then you find out about something that you didn't know was there, and then you get to go and explore something new? I think that we need to get into the habit of just exploring and having fun no matter where we are, and just like making the most of every day, because otherwise we just end up sitting at home and we get stuck into Netflix binges. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but like, you know, whilst it's still summer and whilst it's still like really nice outside, I think we need to take advantage and do more outsidey things, outdoorsy things, outsidey things. Anyway, this camera is so heavy and my poor arm is like not used to holding it. Car driving montage. At Sydney Olympic Park. Now, we have actually been to Sydney Olympic Park before, but where we're going today in Sydney Olympic Park, neither of us have ever been to, and that's because Sydney Olympic Park is huge. So I've been here in the sense that like I've seen concerts here and like I've been to sporting events here, but I've never just like wandered around and explored Sydney Olympic Park.
So Sydney Olympic Park is absolutely massive. So if you are here and you do want to explore and you want to go to a few of the different areas in the park, the best thing to do is just to hire a bicycle. Ride off into the distance.
I'm doing it.
So we just hired our bikes. It was $30 each, but we've got them for the next 4 hours. That gives us plenty of time to ride over to the stadium. We're going to be checking out the brick pit, and then by the end of the day, hopefully we'll have found these awesome shipwrecks. There's meant to be 3 or 4 of these shipwrecks with mangroves now growing out of them. So that's what I've heard. I've seen a few photos, but I've lived here my whole life and never have I seen any shipwrecks. So we'll see. Let's go bike riding.
Safety sand. Ready to go?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've been driving around for about 10 minutes now, but we have just stopped at the Sydney Olympic Park Stadium. So this stadium was the actual stadium, like the main stadium during the Sydney Olympics in 2000, and it's where like the opening and closing ceremony happened, a lot of the main sporting events, but it's still here and it's pretty cool. They do run tours, so you can go inside if you wanted to go inside and have a look. We're not going to do that today. We've already been inside. It's just a really big stadium, but if stadiums are your thing, then that could be a really fun thing to do. Also, check these out. You can see some very, very old remnants of where it did say Sydney 2000 with the Olympic symbol.
This whole area here was dedicated to all the volunteers that helped. So on each pylon is a list of names of people who volunteered to help at the Sydney Olympics back in the year 2000. Now, my dad volunteered. He was a navigator on one of the buses. So I'm just trying to find his name. If I'm not mistaken, should find Arthur Shaw. Just there. Arthur Shaw. It's my dad, who was the navigator on the buses here during Sydney Olympics. How cool is that? We've just just jumped off our bikes to show you this thing right here, which is the actual Olympic torch that was used during the Sydney Olympics. There we go again.
I've never seen this. I had no idea this was here. That is the Olympic torch. Well, I mean, it's not the Olympic torch anymore. It's not still a torch. But that was the Olympic torch inside the stadium. I'm gonna take my helmet off, but also I'm probably gonna have like severe helmet hair, so don't judge me. It's like a Pantene commercial. This is so cool. I had no idea that the Sydney Olympic torch was still here. Like, this is the Sydney Olympic torch, the actual one that was at the Olympics, which is so cool. Back when the Olympics was on, back in 2000, I was 9, I was in the 4th grade, and I was so excited that the Olympics was coming to Australia. Back then, I lived in Perth. If you know anything about Australia, you'll know that it's really big, and Perth and Sydney are not very close to one another. And it's actually pretty expensive to fly between the two. And I begged my parents to come to see the Olympics. I begged them, and back then, I obviously didn't understand like how expensive it would be and all of that. I had no concept of money. And I just remember being so upset, like I was so hard done by that my parents didn't take me to the Olympics. Meanwhile, Edward over here got to go to a bunch of games, and I'm so jealous. Like, he got to go to a bunch of games and I didn't, but yeah.
Such a cool experience. Best Olympics ever, I'm told.
So next up we have stopped at the Brick Pit, and this place is actually really cool. So as the name suggests, it is a brick pit. This is the Brick Pit here, and as you can see, it's massive! You can imagine back in the day it would have been filled with hundreds of thousands of bricks all here, all being made, all to be delivered to all different places all over Sydney. Now I know what you're thinking, it's not that exciting, but it's actually pretty historical. The Brick Pit opened in 1917 and closed in around the late 80s, and during that time it actually produced more than 3 billion bricks. Not million, billion with a B. A lot of Australia's old hospitals and other historical buildings, their bricks actually came from this brick pit. Now back when the Sydney Olympics was on, they weren't really sure what to do with the brick pit because it is a bit of an eyesore. Some of the ideas that were floated around are actually hilarious if you think about it. Maybe we'll turn it into a big swimming pool, or maybe we'll turn it into a yacht mooring. Looking at it now, I don't know how they would have turned it into a yacht mooring, but that was one of the suggestions. And whilst they were coming up with different things to do with the area, they actually discovered that there was an endangered species of frog that lives in this area, and that meant that they weren't able to go through with any of the plans that they had originally talked about. But what they did do instead is they built this really cool walkway. You can walk the whole way around and basically just look into a piece of Sydney's history.
So I had no idea that these were here. We were just having a look on Google Maps looking for where we could go exploring for today, and I found this point called Shipwreck Lookout. And I thought, shipwrecks? There are no shipwrecks over at Homebush. But here we are, right in the middle of the mangroves, a big ship. So I did a little bit more research, and I think a lot of these ships are old Navy ships that were used to transport cargo, and they just were abandoned here years and years ago now. Like, this one's pretty dilapidated and rusted out, but it's just so interesting that right here in the center of Sydney, just lost in the mangroves, are these shipwrecks. And it sort of made me wonder, what else does Sydney have that I haven't discovered? You know, like, I lived across the river for 30 years and yeah, had no idea these were here. It's amazing.
Oh my goodness, am I hot and sweaty? Like, actually, can you see the beads of sweat? Wow. But how cool is this? The fact that we had no idea that this existed until yesterday makes it that much more special. This is so close to where we live, and there are actual shipwrecks. Like, first of all, first question, why are there shipwrecks here? And second of all, how come we never knew about this? This is like so cool.
Look ahead, the sea is calm, and I know we've been through a lot, but just wait. Wait for better days to come and carry us like wind in our sails.
Back in the car, we're sweaty messes, but that was so much fun.
That was so good. We hope you enjoyed that little whirlwind tour of Sydney Olympic Park. Had a great start to the morning. Thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. this was a little piece of home. So
Yeah.
enjoy.
If you haven't already done so, subscribe, smash that like button, and make sure you turn off notifications. And make sure you turn on the little notification icon so you never miss an upload. And guys, we'll see you in the next video.